you want to live your life selfishly and you don't want to do this. I'm like,
y'all
no.
just want to sin.
Yeah.
Y'all just want to sin.
But hi, welcome to Atheist Edge. I'm Courtney.
I'm TJ.
And today TJ just has a topic. I don't know too much about it, but he's just gonna present that, and I guess we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I just it was something that came to my attention. There was a story in Colorado on a local news channel in Colorado Springs. Basically, the meat and potatoes of what the story was about was that there was a newsletter. Well, it was characterized as a newsletter that was circulating at the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs that basically was a screed about how oppressive military veterans were at the school and how the
Like as students?
Yeah, students, former military members. So it's basically
Oppressive how?
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, and like I kind of like I went and I looked at a lot of the points that they're attempting to make in the newsletter. It was just like a single page, but I went point by point and kind of like outlined some of my objections to what they were saying and stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is basically I'll read like a sentence or two or whatever
from the newsletter.
Right, from the newsletter,
Great.
and then I kind of like numbered some points, to say, hey, this is I don't agree with this because whatever ABC. But okay, so there's like a little introduction at the beginning of it that's basically inconsequential, but when it actually fires into the substance, the first thing that we
can probably link it in the description too, like
we could link it in the description below of this podcast. So the first to go right off into it is
Sweet.
All right. So let's get right into it. So this is actually from the newsletter. It says, first off, many veterans openly mock the ideas of diversity and safe spaces for vulnerable members of society. This is directly in contradiction to the mission of UCCS. Many veterans utter the mantra that they do not see color, and those do not see colors in scare quotes. But the problem lies in their
scare quotes.
The scare quotes.
What is that?
Quotations.
Why is
it's
that
quoted.
Scare quotes? Sorry.
But the problem lies
I don't know
in
what
their.
that means.
But the problem lies in their socialization into the military culture, that is that of a white supremacist organization. They have been permanently tainted and are no longer fit for a 4-year university.
Whoa! And not fit for.
And we're a white supremacist organization. The military is.
That's so stupid. Okay, but okay. So, in college, diversity of ideas is what college is for.
Right.
And so, how could you be unfit for college if you have an unpopular idea, or even an incorrect idea?
Right.
That's still okay. Like, it's a place for open ideas because there's nothing off limits in terms of ideas in college, or there shouldn't be.
I just so that we don't get too far away from it, so that I can. So scare quotes. Quotation marks used around a word or phrase when they're not required, thereby eliciting undue attention or doubts. So they're using it,
accentuating a word.
They're trying to They're trying to cast dispersion.
Well, but like
on
saying
on the phrase.
Well, what was the quote?
Do not that we utter the mantra. We do not see color.
That's a
like
quote.
I don't even know. Yeah,
it's a quote. We do not.
If
see
people
color.
actually say that, but what they're saying is they're trying to delegitimize the use of that phrase by people that they've heard say it.
I'm not sure that's being used that way. It's just like they utter this quote.
Yeah, but I think they're trying to draw attention to it as well.
Well, but it's
you know
a
what
quote.
I mean?
That's just grammatically correct. Like that. But that's what separates.
But you could say that without quotes, though,
no,
because you're not quoting a specific person.
You'd have to italicize it or something. Like they.
It's like when you do that in a conversation, though.
Yeah, but I don't think it's being used that way.
And you do it to like.
Yeah,
dig at the thing that you're
I know
using
people use
the quotes
it that way,
around.
but I don't think that's that because it is a quote. Like it's a
Who?
phrase.
But who though? You're just saying that they say this. You're not quoting anybody.
Okay, but grammatically, it's a way to separate that phrase from the rest of the text that is your words.
All right.
You know what I mean? Like that's the reason for it. So it's saying they say this phrase.
Okay.
And if it's not accurate that they don't say that, then that's a whole different thing. But to put it in
that
quotes.
would be all right. So basically, they're saying that we're not a good fit to be admitted to institutions of higher learning.
But based on what? Like, do they give any documentation for that, or like statistics?
That's just the first. That's just their opening. That's just their opening.
Okay. So it's just an unfounded assertion.
Like, right, they're asserting a thing right now.
Okay.
So first, I kind of like one of the.
Well, I also had. I mean, safe spaces is a whole crazy topic that I don't really know too much about.
Yeah. I didn't really go into that.
I know there's a lot of controversy about that. But they're advocating for military mocking the idea of safe spaces.
Well, they're saying that they're accusing us of doing that, and because of that, we shouldn't be allowed.
As a category, like that's not okay
yes,
anyway.
Yes. You know? Right.
Yeah.
Because so what I kind of like wanted to draw attention to though is first of all, like stating that kind of suggests that like veterans are the only group of people that engage in this sort of behavior. I think a lot of people.
I don't think it's that.
Well, like they're saying
like
that only veterans do this, so they would. That's grounds for them to be not admitted.
Well, I don't know if they say only, but this group as a whole does this, which I don't think is okay. But I don't think they're saying that they're the only group that does this. They're like, we're going to target this group because we see that. Right. You know what I mean?
But where I'm going with this, though, is that the fact that all kinds of people, not just vets, sometimes ridicule ideas they don't agree with.
Right.
Right? You would agree with that.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes...
And that's the place to do it, is college. So that would be appropriate for college.
Right. And that invalidates the statement's intended purpose to pigeonhole all vets
Absolutely.
into a particular ideology as it relates to those topics.
Absolutely. And they didn't give any like stats or anything?
No, they didn't. No, there was no data. There was no
So this flyer, was it like an opinion thing?
Yeah, I guess it was just kind of like an opinion piece or something. Maybe they were advocating for this and they were trying to get the word out.
So what organization put this out?
I don't know. There was an email address on the...
Like a student organization?
I don't think it was. I think it was actually found to be someone that didn't even attend the college. So it was just some nut wanted this idea brought forward, and so he went to his local college campus and was
maybe
like, here,
he was part of the military who wanted
maybe he was a
delegitimize
vet.
The idea of safe spaces.
Yeah, or
or the college.
Let me continue with what I gathered from it. So like if you look, the actual mission, they talk about the mission statement of the university. So first of all, it actually makes the actual mission statement makes no mention of with respect to social identities or diversity. The mission,
or like safe spaces, right?
This is the mission statement.
Why they would. Okay,
well, this is the mission statement. The Colorado Springs campus of the University of Colorado shall be a comprehensive baccalaureate and specialized graduate research university with selective admission standards. Colorado Springs campus shall offer liberal arts and sciences, business, engineering, health sciences, and teacher preparation undergraduate degree programs and a selected number of master's and doctoral degree programs.
Right.
That is the entirety of the mission statement.
Selective? What does that mean? Selective admission standards?
All I'm saying is that it makes no mention of
meaning they have
anything that they're claiming.
Selective meaning they have the right to
right.
Admit or not admit anybody based on anything. Like it's not like they're going to be characterized as not admitting someone because of their race or whatever.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't address that.
They have the power to select.
Right. Right. It's just, I think probably they're probably just referring to academic selection.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that has nothing to do with
no. That has nothing to do with what that they say.
Absolutely not.
That the mission.
So what did they say about the mission statement? They said that it contradicts it.
Well, okay. So yeah, it's directly in contradiction
But what's making me laugh right now is they are directly contradicting the statement.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because they're trying to exclude. They're being exclusionary towards a group, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
go
I
ahead.
mean, so now, like, also with that, I admit that if you actually go down to the core values section,
Okay.
it actually does say one of the core values is inclusive diversity.
But they're going against that.
Exactly. Yes.
Absolutely.
So they're using a thing to point to the thing that actually
They are
contradicts the
demonstrating.
thing that they're trying to prove. Yes.
Yeah, they're speaking out against something that
So inclusive diversity,
that
right?
they are violating.
Well, what is inclusive diversity? They explain it here.
Okay.
We value inclusive diversity as a foundation for teaching and scholarship that prepares students, faculty, staff, and community members for both local and global multicultural realities.
Say that again, sorry.
Huh?
I didn't catch all that one. Say it again.
We value inclusive diversity as a foundation for teaching and scholarship that prepares students, faculty, staff, and community members for both local and global multicultural realities.
Great.
We provide an open, safe, and supportive campus. Open. Safe, and supportive. Open.
Which is not safe spaces, right?
Which means open, which means yes, should be inclusive. That should denote inclusivity.
But I don't understand why the idea of a safe space, like a safe space.
Well, let's not get caught up. Let's not get hung up on that term. There are other. Trust me. There's a continue. This goes on for some length. I'm just trying to get. This is the presentation that I have that I'm just kind of like trying to dissect what they're saying.
Yeah.
So and just to give some background and to refer to some things that are salient to rebut or object soundly to what they're saying, right? So we provide an open, safe, and supportive campus environment based on mutual respect, engagement, and learning for everyone, including those from the full spectrum of backgrounds, social identities, abilities, cultures, perspectives, and university roles.
Okay.
So they're basically, this is the college here. They're saying that it is in their purview to include everybody that they could possibly include in the pursuit of diversity. And diversity includes, and it listed the things that they consider valid groups pertaining to diversity, which is backgrounds, everything, not just cultures, not just orientations, all of it, right? So they go on. Well, actually, there's another little thing. So they make it I read you the mission statement. They make absolutely no mention with respect to social identities or diversity in the actual mission statement. The bit about their mantra makes little to having a mantra of we do not see color. That makes little to no sense. Roughly 400,000. If you look at it, this is in respect to population. 400,000 of the 1.3 million active duty military members are a minority race, 30%.
Okay.
So blacks, African American service members are slightly overrepresented. It's about 19%. Asians, Hispanics, and multiracial members are pretty underrepresented in comparison to the national population. But these figures hardly lend themselves to the notion that the military is a white supremacist organization. That was one of the charges levied.
But how would they claim that in the first place? I don't understand.
It's utterly baseless. It's bald assertion.
But why would they think that?
It's just a flat out. I mean, personal experience.
We were both in the military, right?
We were both. Yeah, me and you both.
The vast majority of them are right and conservative and NRA.
Depends on where
members.
you're stationed too, man.
Well, I was an extreme minority as a Marine at being a
It might be
vegetarian atheist.
It might be a little bit more prevalent in the Marine Corps.
In the Marine Corps, it was all NRA, gun-toting, URA, very right, very conservative.
The only thing that I can kind of not agree with, but just I can kind of see what their argument is okay, if you have somebody who is who's like someone who's trying to recognize that racism is still a problem, they are arguing that that racism still exists, and that there's a difference between people, and that it's being recognized.
Yeah.
And somebody arguing against that idea would say, I'm a modern person and I don't see color. And so, of course they see color, but it's what you do with that information that is different.
Right. You can't convict people of thought crime.
And so the phrase, I don't see color, could be seen to be coming from someone who's arguing against the idea of there being modern racism. But that's a mind twist thing. Exactly. Like,
so what, right?
And so
marketplace of ideas.
Yeah,
that's what college campuses are supposed to be.
So that's the only thing that I could see, but I don't think it'd be enough of an argument to warrant a claim like that. So
now, I mean, unless you're trying to incite violence, or yelling fire in a crowded theater or something like that, you have to protect everything.
It can be used as a way to delegitimize claims of racism and
right?
say we are colorblind.
But what's the cure to bad speech? What do you think the best
countering with better
more
speech?
Yeah, more speech.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's not to silence or shout down that speech.
Not. Yeah, no. It's to make better arguments.
Make better arguments, exactly.
And let the audience decide.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the things that are reasonable will stand on their own merits.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you let people go to their logical conclusion, it may fall apart too, if it's a bad argument.
People don't always think. Well, you know what? Steven Pinker even said though that when you have people are much more reasonable and logical when it's a question of social contracts. When there is an expected, like when you're trying to find a cheater. Like when you're trying to figure out when someone's being dishonest and trying to cheat a system or do a thing that is dishonest, we're much better at discovering and analyzing and figuring that out.
Sorry. I just didn't want him to start making one.
But if you just if you gave somebody a simple logic puzzle that just had say how do you deduct things, right? Like if you had
deduce things, yeah.
Right. Like if you had say cards where there was a letter on one side and a number on another side, you had 4 of them, and you made the statement, all D's are 4s. All D's have 4s.
Okay.
And then you had one was face up that had a D on it. One was face up that had a 4 on it. One was face up that had an R on it, and one was face up that had a 2 on it. Like which ones do you need to turn over to deduce whether or not the rule is correct? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but a lot of people get that wrong. Like which ones they should turn over to make to draw a reasonable or a justified conclusion.
But wouldn't you have to?
You would have to turn over
all of them.
Well, that's what a lot of people think.
To know that the other ones don't have that either.
But you can still conclude it without all of them.
Well, to conclude that if you're just talking about the D's and the 4s.
All D's are 4s. All D's have 4s.
Yeah, only those 2, yeah.
But you would D and the 4, right?
So you're not trying to prove that no others have a D or a 4 on them.
Exactly.
You're trying to prove that these 2...
And you're also not saying that all 4s are D's.
Okay, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's in the formula. And seeing this demonstrates how bad we can be, our brains can be, when it's when it's just an abstraction, when the logic is an abstraction. But when we were dealing with people and a social contract or a honesty versus dishonesty, like in cheating in some way, we're much better at figuring that out. Example. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's funny that because you mentioned how do you figure out whether or not they're telling the truth, or how do you know that for a fact that that's what they're doing, and even if they're doing that, what makes it right for you to bar them? We people who are reasonable, and you said let the logic run to its natural conclusion. People will figure that out because it has something to do with us as human beings. We're good at that. So, but that's kind of a tangent, but. It goes on. Second, many students are frightened by the presence of veterans in their classroom. Veterans usually have an overwhelming presence in the classroom, which can distract other students.
What?
You just brace
go
yourself.
ahead.
Brace yourself.
Keep going. You're good.
Brace yourself because
I'm
the
already
hilarity,
doing it.
Those
are ridiculous.
This is usually true for vulnerable individuals such as LGBTQI2SAA.
Okay.
That just happened.
That just happened. Who have been known to
Can
be
I
the
see
butt?
that?
Yes.
I know.
Oh.
I know the 2S is two spirit.
I don't
Whoa.
even
I
understand
don't
what
know
that
the
alphabet soup is. I understand the first 4 letters of it.
Why?
I know one of the Q's is queer.
Most people, when they're referencing it, they say LGBTQ, and that's it. But
No, it keeps growing.
It
No, I'm
keeps
just-
going now, apparently,
well,
though.
but not. I wouldn't think that everybody does that.
This is like,
Now we're gonna have to pick an acronym.
yeah. I don't even think that. Like, what do you do?
It won't stop.
It won't- it
until
never
every
ends.
individual is identified.
Yeah,
Because
all the
that's how it
70
is.
new pronouns are included in the alphabet soup. Yeah.
Quaglast would be the.
Damn.
That would be the.
Okay.
That would be the acronym.
Okay, yeah.
But that's the only thing I can find. But okay. No, I don't want to make fun of,
No,
of
it's-
people having a identification that's comfortable for them and whatever within this context. But I think there's a phrase in here, like, okay, so LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning.
Right. Well, let's not get hung up on that.
No, I
but
don't
it
know
is
what I don't
funny.
know what the rest of it's for, but maybe one of the A's is asexual.
Could be.
So
Or,
I think
what is it? Animal kin or
What?
other kin or I don't know. There's some like
The 2S is two spirit, which is a kind of a Native American, like you think you're two different spirits.
okay.
You're like a bi-spirit.
okay. So on the one hand, I don't have a problem with the organization having their own title and their own definitions and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to like make fun of that, but it's just like I think the only problem would be in places like Canada where there's a legal obligation to know
Oh, yeah.
all of them and to be accurate all the time, and if you make a mistake, it's a legally binding
Yeah.
thing.
If you use
And
the
so
wrong
that's
pronoun.
bad. That's free speech and whatever. So the law is an attempt to prevent people from just making fun of this and
Yeah, but why
and
shouldn't you be
deliberately
able to?
disregarding someone's.
I shouldn't be able to make fun of anything you want to make fun of.
Yeah.
Ridicule should not be illegal.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. Free speech and yeah.
Yeah.
So but there's a very big difference between like ridicule for the sake of showing it to be a bad idea and like hate speech.
Makes no
But
difference.
but
actually,
it still shouldn't
you're
be
a
illegal.
dick if you're making fun of people.
Yeah, but
I mean,
hate speech should still not be illegal.
there's
like,
there's
I
no
don't
law
understand.
against being an asshole.
I know, yeah. and if the hate speech leads to some violence, then the
If you're
violence
inciting violence,
then the violence is what's illegal. But
Right,
it's
yeah.
not
Yeah, for
like
sure, yeah.
free speech is free speech and
Yeah.
there is a slippery slope with
so
that.
you can
I
be
think.
fined for not calling people Z or here, if that's the pronoun that they demand
Yeah.
that you use.
Yeah.
Apparently, so yeah, this is like regarding
Now
the
I think
laws.
that would have to be
That's crazy.
brought through a legal process and if you'd want to spend the money to accuse someone of that and whatever.
Yeah, like how do you prove
So
that?
there is a built-in kind of fail-safe, slightly just like if someone just accidentally says the wrong word and apologizes, you're not going to bring them to court over that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't think anybody would. But so it's a kind of an assertion on the part of the government to say, hey, respect these people. But
I think that's a terrible idea.
But
though, at
making
least, right?
but making
Okay.
speech illegal is very far from the point,
Yeah, for sure.
and I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, don't be an asshole, people. But I mean,
But that
shit,
shouldn't
you
be
can't-
illegal.
Yeah, it shouldn't be illegal.
That's not the place of the government to say.
No, yeah.
To say, hey, be a nice person. Like that's not freedom.
Yeah, you can't make people be pleasant.
No.
You can't. I mean,
You
we
have,
have-
I mean, you have the right to be an asshole, but you also have the right to receive public backlash for that being an
Oh, yeah.
asshole. Like,
But that's why you should allow it,
Yeah,
right?
that's the system that accounts for that.
That's
but it
why
doesn't
I'm in
have to
favor
be.
of protection of unpopular speech. Not only is it a constitutional bedrock that the country was founded on.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're talking about Canada, but
Well, yeah,
but
yeah.
in the U.S.,
okay.
I don't think that should ever
That's
happen.
New York, not Canada.
Oh, that's in New York.
City.
Wow.
What?
That's
What
New
was in
York
New
City.
York?
That's in New York City, apparently, huh? Wow.
It's not Canada anymore.
The-
So it's like
that
they made it a
what?
city ordinance, basically. That you,
What's-
if you don't use the correct pronouns, that you can be
It's
apparently
not just
ticketed.
Canada.
I guess
Not just Canada anymore.
not just Canada anymore.
Since when?
This is what's happening with all this stuff. I mean, pretty soon you're not going to be able to talk. We're going to be so silent in our public squares. It's just like, I mean, when can we ever say anything?
I don't know about that, but I think it is important to not get away from the actual issue. And so
Yeah,
I
but
think that's what they're
If
what
the
they're
government
doing.
is compelling speech, it is a valid slippery slope.
well,
That
and
there's going
it could
to
just
be,
as easily be, hey, you can't criticize these people's religious doctrine. Like,
Yeah,
you can't.
we're talking
you can't
about
argue against
blasphemy.
it.
We're gonna have blasphemy laws. We're gonna have all kinds of shit. It's
Yeah,
gonna
no.
open the door for a bunch of
That
crazy
is-
shit.
That is really bad.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
So yeah, I mean, so we have this.
I mean,
law.
I am a very compassionate. I think you should be a good person, but I don't think
Right.
it should be legislated.
You can't compel. Yeah, you can't
It's
compel the
not.
citizenry to.
It's not what legislation is
no,
for.
it's not.
People. Yeah, that's the whole point of the First Amendment. You know, that is the point. But that also,
Law
the
places limits on behavior.
Yeah,
it
and-
shouldn't compel behavior.
right, and the freedom of speech to criticize things like the government. Is
That's one of the
is
important things,
absolutely
too.
what the country is founded on as well.
What do you?
It's-
What do you think our
it's-
founding fathers did?
It's
when
what
they-
exactly. It's one of the most important things, and the idea of it being of the government becoming a theocracy or a dictatorship
is the protections that we
you,
have on those
you
things,
as a
yeah.
citizen of America are compelled to be against that with your own
Right.
militia and the Second Amendment and all that.
Right.
Is that you have to hold the government accountable
Yeah.
because you are the product of the government and the government is the product of you. I said that opposite. The government is a product of the people.
Yeah, the government is
It's-
an extension
It's
of
by
the will
people
of the
and for the people,
Yes.
and so the government has to be representative and a extension of the people.
And
It
that's-
shouldn't be dictating who the people have to
Right.
be.
Yeah, I get that, and we give the government a monopoly on violence for a reason, because we mandate it, because we don't want to have to do it ourselves.
Oktoberfest. Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
Thank you, Jim. You know me very well. Okay.
the country
There's
was
one more IPA for you whenever you're ready.
okay. So the country was founded on
Oktoberfest,
treason.
man.
I mean,
Oktoberfest. It's awesome. Okay.
the founding fathers are committing treason when they formed this nation.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Um,
treason against England.
against
yeah.
the crown, but it was born of the concept of treason.
Yeah.
But
that was only by British law.
Right,
Not,
yeah.
Not.
We didn't
actual
see it as
logic.
that necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like, well, screw you. We're doing our own thing now. This is
Well,
just us.
and that's the important thing is to go. Yeah, it's kind of sad because if you make the law something that if the law
laws are limits on behavior, and the Constitution says what cannot be made into law that in which it infringes upon a right that you have.
Say again.
Law is a limitation on your behavior. But the Constitution is the check and balance on law, in the sense that it says what the law cannot tell you can't do.
Okay. Yeah.
It can't. You have these certain
it
things.
ensures individual
It
freedom,
ensures individual freedoms
Yeah.
and rights. That
Yeah.
it says the Constitution comes back into above law and
Right.
says, I don't care what law you want to make, but you cannot specifically tell people they cannot do this, 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 and this. And
Right.
there's a list of 10
you
things.
can't discriminate people based
Yes,
on this. And,
exactly.
Yeah, so the
Well, the
I mean,
discrimination
if-
isn't even part of the Bill of Rights.
And that's the thing
but-
that I think the revolution of the founding fathers is that the government, if it makes laws that infringe on parts of
you
that,
can make all kinds of laws.
then they are no longer a valid authority.
Right. Well,
Because-
law can be
because
unconstitutional
you-
and doesn't invalidate the government, though.
No, what I'm saying is that they were under a government
Mm-hmm.
that was infringing on rights that they thought that they should have,
Right.
and so the treason was going against it.
Well, you know what the main
Um,
one was, right? You know what the main one was, right?
Taxation.
Taxation without representation.
Right.
So, I mean, the Bill of Rights came later.
Meaning that they pointed out in all of that the government isn't infallible.
No, and that's why we have checks. That's why we have the three branch.
That's why we are
branches of
supposed
government.
to have a voice in that to
Right.
keep it in check, and the checks and balances
It's
within the branches. Yeah.
It's a triangle.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a lot of at least suspicion, and I don't know how much is actually there, but there's a lot of suspicion that I think is probably accurate that the branches of government are so kind of working together that they're no longer checking and balancing. That it is a large system
You'd
of
have to go-
people moving within branches and people
Okay.
legislation.
And
And
the bigger problem
and,
is money in politics.
and I'm not sure that would be the fault of any one person. And that's the thing. Yeah, campaign
money in
funds,
politics is a much bigger problem.
legislation fund, absolutely. Here's a ticket to the opera and vote this way. And it's not usually just a ticket to the opera.
Well, we're
but
one
it's
of the only
just-
countries that even has lobbying as a thing.
Really?
Yes. You go to like England, they don't have money in their
Ah.
politics.
India.
They actually operate in accordance with the will of the people
In Parliament?
in Parliament. Yes, they don't. There's not a. You don't go
Yeah,
over there
because
as a corporation
and that
tell
really
the
doesn't
fucking
make any
Parliament
sense
what
to
the
me.
fuck to do.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't.
And that's what's kind of
and-
sad about also our legal system is that lawyers argue a case whether they argue to win. They don't argue to find truth.
Well,
And-
but you're also mandated as when you pass that bar exam and you agree to that contract
yeah.
that you are going to provide the best possible defense to your client
but
regardless.
But even if
of
it's
what
dishonest,
others.
and that's
It
what
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
really make sense to me.
But see,
that you make the best argument, and that would be legitimate. But these people are given the liberty to go beyond what's actually true and completely mischaracterize the opposite side, and I don't understand that. I understand that people should be given the best defense they can because that's absolutely constitutional and right. But I don't understand why there's so much freedom to just confuse the issue completely within a courtroom.
That's what lawyers do, man. Shit.
Yeah, I really don't understand that. I don't understand.
You don't have to. They just do what they do. Yeah, exactly.
Their
They
job
need to
is
cast
to
that
their
doubt,
job is
yeah.
to win cases.
And you actually, this is something you should identify with wholeheartely, though.
What?
The installation of doubt within the human mind, because it can be a good thing. Most of the time, doubt is necessary. Is a necessary component of human cognition.
Right.
Because that's how we arrive at truths. Mm-hmm. Right. Because like science, the reason why we have science is not to follow everything that we already think.
Yeah.
It's to disprove things because they seem counterintuitive or they seem intuitive.
Because there are experts in science, not authorities in science.
Yes, exactly. Because when you're doing science, you're not saying, well, the thing that makes the most sense, this is just what we're going with. No,
Peer review is not to.
you're trying to
support the position.
you're trying
It's
to
trying to tear it apart.
Yeah, you're trying to tear it down. Yeah, you're trying to poke the holes in it.
Because if
And when
you
it
try
stands-
if you try to disprove your theory and it still comes out to be correct,
And that's part of that intellectual honesty that you were talking about. Scientists have to have it.
10 more trials and then
Right.
you publish it.
Because the guy
it's not
next
as
to you
simple
tries
as
to
people think. Yeah.
The guy next to you tries to
And-
show how you're just utterly wrong
Yeah.
about everything, and when he can't do that,
Yeah.
that's where the body of knowledge expands.
Right. And replicating studies is absolutely important, especially in psychology, because if you do a study in America and you publish it, and it's peer review look at all your data and come to the same conclusion, and it gets published and it's fine, you should be able to do the exact same experiment in Germany or in India
Yeah.
and come to the same conclusion. And if you don't,
independently verifiable, repeatable,
yeah,
Testable.
testable, repeatable,
falsifiable.
and falsifiable. Yes.
yeah, it's
So-
that's the point of doing replicating studies.
Replicating. Yeah.
Is that you need people to do that.
Yeah.
And we have someone at the door.
Sweet.
Keep going, guys.
Okay.
This shit is
All
gold.
right. Anyway, so we got off on a little side project there.
No, that's fine.
We're good.
Uh,
Well, this is Bill, Courtney, teacher.
Hello. So, back to the article.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what I wrote on number 2.
Let's backtrack.
Oh wait.
to the
Okay. So
topic.
let's actually dive into the second
Uh-huh.
point
Yeah.
a little bit. Students are frightened by vets based on what? Nonsensical. I'd be keen to track with some
they
information.
don't make an argument for why or
Right. Yeah. They just simply state it.
They didn't even survey 20 people or something.
Right. They didn't
like-
say like we took a poll of so many students
Yeah.
and they are feeling this way.
But
They didn't
okay,
even
but
do that.
even
Yeah.
if they were, they still have the military still has the right to go to college. Like, dude, you know?
Right.
Like if you have a fear of the military, then that's a whole nother thing. That's your
This should be addressed
problem.
on your
That you should
issue.
be
Yeah.
in like therapy or something or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's not something. The solution to that is to address the issue in the individual of the fear. It's not to exclude all the other
That's a
people.
good segue into
like
what
like if a rape victim is afraid of men after that, you can't just take all the men out of a class. You deal
Exactly.
with that. You deal with that in therapy, and
Right.
you work through that, and you build them up to that, and maybe you have them, have most of their classes in a room, whatever. But
So you don't
but
change reality to fit their feelings.
Exactly, but not
Right.
feelings, like fear. Like
Okay.
it's a legitimate fear.
Well, a feeling
and it's
denotes
fine.
emotion. It's an emotion that's evoked. It's an illicit.
Well, it's a condition. It's a fear that I don't think should be
yeah,
you know,
I mean,
trivialized, but it's
No, no,
but
no.
it's something
I'm not
that's
saying that. I'm
it's
just-
something that's absolutely legitimate. But this
For sure.
person is the one with the problem, and
right.
I
You can't
think
change
that would-
everybody around the problem.
Right.
You have to address
deal
the
with
person
it
with the
directly.
problem,
Because
yeah.
because if you take people out of that class, that person still has to move through the world with other people in the military that they're afraid of.
Yes,
And so
that is a
that
good
doesn't
point.
solve it. Like you
is
you
a
have
good
to
point.
you have to
That's
deal
really-
with it
yeah.
at the source, which is the person who's afraid of it, which I would think it would be a very small minority.
Yeah.
Like if you were like there was
Because that's pretty irrational fear, right? That'd
Well,
be a
but-
phobia, wouldn't it?
like there was
Some
one
sort of-
woman
what you would
on a
call
documentary called Hot Coffee on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there, but it talked about the idea of frivolous lawsuits and being used by the Bush administration to pass mandatory arbitration laws.
Yeah.
But there was a woman who worked for a company that worked for the military. She didn't work for the military directly. She was sent over, and she was told she would be in a female dorm, and she ended up being by herself in a male dorm, and she was gang raped by like multiple people, and the company, instead of letting her go to a doctor, they locked her in a cell for 3 days. And the family,
Because that's what you can do legally.
I know.
mean,
And the family had to go to their like reverend or whatever, and they came over and like and
Okay.
so
Yeah.
this person advocated for that and said, where is she, and we need to find her, and we need to get her out of there, and they were able to get her out of there.
they didn't even notify anybody
but
of where
the-
she was or anything like that.
No, she was locked in a containment cell, like one of those
Oh,
things that
so she
that's-
basically had no
one of
rights
those-
for those like
right.
72 hours.
One
or
of those,
whatever, yeah.
one of those containers on like a train, like a cargo container. She was locked in-
shit, man.
in like Afghanistan.
like a la Poland 1936 or whatever.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And the reason for that was that they didn't want the evidence for whatever. But the thing is I think she would have a legitimate fear of people in the military. But that would be a very small minority, and that would be
Yeah.
someone who would need to deal with that
Well,
as
you
an
know-
issue of their own.
You know,
but
there's
it's
no
not.
due process in the military, right? You don't
Well,
really.
isn't there a, like military tribunal or whatever?
You can be non-judicially punished in the military. You can be summarily ruled against in a case if it's brought before, say, your commanding officer.
That's not good.
there are reasons that it exists the way in the form that it exists.
Good order and discipline.
Good order and discipline, because there's something called the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
You're moving the curtain.
That's actually that is a superseding document to any state law that applies in any given criminal
And to be
situation.
clear, you were in the military, so
Yes,
you're speaking on
NJP
your experience.
before.
Okay.
I got NJP.
So if these people got what they wanted, you would not be allowed to go to a university or that university?
I think they're saying, well,
Every NJP,
Let's-
you have the opportunity to
to
take it.
request court martial.
You can request a trial.
That is usually not good.
It's
though.
usually very not good.
No.
You
Your career's over at that point.
Yeah, you need to go ahead and take the.
Which means it's a bad enough accusation to
Yeah.
to
Well, because
warrant
you're
a-
guilty until proven innocent in the eyes of many
Yes.
people in the military.
Yes.
like in the UK.
I don't know how it works over there, but you're just like, if you are accused of a thing, you're a shitbag already.
Well, like that. Well, that was the point of the movie. It wasn't doubt. It was another D word. It was about Holocaust denial.
Oh shit.
It was.
Yeah, that's pretty disturbing.
Well, it was a true story of a woman in New York. She was a professor, and she in some of her publications she referenced this guy who was a Holocaust denier, and she called him a liar and a falsifier of history.
Yeah.
And
It's a pretty serious charge.
And he brought her to court in the UK. She was an American citizen, but he brought her to court in the UK because he.
Oh, and it was civil though. That's
right,
preponderance.
But he caused her. It's called Denial. The movie is called Denial.
That's how preponderance works in civil cases. It's the person who is accused. That's the way it works here too.
Okay, well, no, but the reason he brought her to UK was because he was accusing her of slander, and she had to prove to the court that. But the reason it was in the UK because it was the opposite of the US.
Well, but
So
you're
it might
thinking
have
of
been-
in criminal cases where
I don't
you're
know. I mean,
innocent
that
until
was
proven
just
guilty. In civil
at
cases,
least in the movie, that was the thing the distinction they made between the two countries.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same way here, though. Is the reason
In a
why is
civil court?
because in civil court, it's not you don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. You just have to have the preponderance of evidence on your side. So it's like if you look at it like this.
Well, but meaning like she accused him of lying,
Oh, okay.
and
yeah.
she had to prove that he was being dishonest in his publication.
Because he brought her to task on it.
Right. He accused her of slander.
Right. Yeah.
And so
So
she
she
had
had
to
all her work
prove
ahead of
she
her.
had to prove that
Yeah.
she had not slandered him. That she
That
had
what
not
she was saying was
lied.
factually true. And
Right.
the
So
things
they
that
had to
she-
go
yeah.
into his publication and look at his references he makes in his publications,
Mm-hmm.
and deconstruct his arguments and make sure. So what they did was they showed that the references he makes trace back to like Nazi propaganda, and he had like an agenda of Nazi propaganda versus actual historical documents.
Yeah.
So she won that case because she proved that she wasn't lying when she said that he
Right.
was being intentionally dishonest. Because it's not illegal for you to be wrong. It's not illegal for you to be
Right.
mistaken.
It's only if you
It's
intentionally
illegal-
misrepresent.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
illegal if
Yeah,
you
of course.
intentionally. Yeah.
Well, it also
intentionally
has
lie.
to have an economic injury component as well.
Economic injury,
So
like a financial burden,
a financial injury to the person where it
because of the
precluded,
slander.
right, because
Yeah.
of the slander. To say it's slander includes a component of denying.
Well, I'm not sure what the actual accusation was that the court had, but
Right.
basically it was slander. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because
I
if you
don't know
say-
if they used a different term.
It's like if I went. It's like if I went to your boss and said, "Courtney's an atheist. Do you think you like have an atheist work for you?" And he fired you because of a thing that I said, and you weren't an atheist, right?
Okay.
I just said that about you, and it wasn't true.
So there's a financial repercussion for that.
Yeah, exactly, because that stopped you from getting compensated and being able to live your life and have money
Right.
to pay for things and stuff
Right,
like that.
right,
Like,
right.
Yeah, so there's like, yeah, exactly. There has to be like some sort of financial injury
Right.
component, you know.
Well,
like,
I mean, yeah, I think I don't know if there was or not, but yeah. So she was a Jewish woman in New York,
yeah, okay.
and so that was an issue as well. And she had victims from the Holocaust coming to her and trying to, you know, feed the fire of drive to make the case for the legitimacy of Holocaust. That, like, she felt this weight of her own community, and of actual victims who, you know, survivors. And so that was just really, really interesting. But the movie's really good. It's called Denial, and it was awesome. I think it came out like maybe a year ago.
Okay, yeah.
It was really, really good.
Awesome.
But it drives home the idea, like coming back to what we're talking about, of you know, proving what you think. Of the legitimacy.
How do you give a demonstration of what you say you claim to know?
Yeah, because she had to prove that the Holocaust happened. How do you do that? You know?
She
like,
had to. I would think it
yeah.
would be the other way around. Like
Exactly.
if you couldn't disprove the like
right,
you know what I mean?
and so she had to say, they went to places like Auschwitz and
wow,
the,
they even went like
yeah,
two
and
places.
the argument that was made for one of the parts of it was that the cyanide used was at a higher rate than it should have been, and the argument was that at that rate it kills lice, and so they may have been trying to just kill lice with the traces
was
of
a delousing
cyanide.
Thing.
Yes, and so that was the argument.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Wow, that's
isn't
freaking.
that freaking terrible? So you know, it was stuff like that, and
that's gross, man.
gross. Yes. You know, because you're dealing with people's, just freaking family tragedy. Like, it is so
Like the Germans
horrific.
killed 40 million people in World War II. Well, 40 million people died in World War II, and the Germans
Right.
killed like 6 million of them in
Yeah.
concentration camps. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
And it's not always talked about, like, Jews as well as
it's actually. I'm
as
sorry,
well
that was
as
just Jews.
homosexual people.
Yeah, because it was
and,
more than
and
that in the wider
political opponents to Hitler as
yeah.
well, and
gypsies,
family members, gypsies,
all kinds of people. Man,
yeah,
it wasn't
yeah,
just Jews.
and especially twins for twin studies with what was that, Mandela? No,
Mengele.
not Mandela. That's
Mengele.
Mandela effect.
Mengele.
Mengele, there you go.
Joseph
That's-
Mengele.
Mandela is African.
The
African
mad
president,
scientist that was doing all the medical experiments on the prisoners and stuff.
Yeah, like trying to genetically change their eye color based on something they
Yes.
inject
What do you
in
call it?
their
Eugenics?
eyes.
There was a lot of it was a lot of
Eugenics.
eugenics stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, what was interesting about that, people talk about like the Holocaust being the fault of atheism, and
What?
oh yeah,
Gott mit uns. God with us. On the belt buckles of Nazi soldiers.
I know, but so not only
God
that,
with us.
but they're like, oh, eugenics is a science and it's science gone wrong. So evolution is not analogous to eugenics.
No, it's
eugenics is a completely just
It's hokum.
what's the word for that? It's like it's a
I don't know what you.
denigration.
Yeah, it's
Like it's a
You're saying that there's groups of people out there that are better than other groups of people.
okay. So what it is evolution recognizes characteristics, physical characteristics being passed through generations, through genes.
Mm-hmm.
But eugenics assumes that there are characteristics like being deceitful or being disruptive
Yeah,
to
there's all
society
these, like,
in
factors,
a
yeah.
personality way,
Mm-hmm.
as also being passed down through traits and generations. So what they assumed was that Jewish people were the problem of the society of deceit and all this stuff. They assumed that would be breeded out as well, so that the society would become a utopian society of good-willed people.
Oh, okay, yeah, utopia, right?
And physically perfect and all of that too,
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
blonde, blue-eyed, whatever.
Right.
So the argument was that and this is what I talk about with religion as well, that Nazism, it's not a religion, but it's an ideology. and the ideology states
Yeah, yeah.
on bad science.
Oh, religions are only just
Bad,
collections of
bad.
ideologies.
Okay, the characteristic thing with pass through genes is not true. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very separate from evolution. But
not,
so
not to get you off
Yeah,
track,
yeah.
but I think we need to get. Let me get through
yeah.
some
Well,
more
just,
of the prepared.
okay,
stuff.
but just that one little point of
Okay.
of eugenics being this idea of characteristics being passed through.
How you can determine
So
superiority of one group over another group.
well, superiority, yes, but also trying to better the whole society as a whole by breeding out these things that,
right.
that
It was
that
actually the
are-
manipulation
are
of said
bad for
gene
society.
pool as well. Yeah.
So that was the argument, and that's what's dangerous about ideology in general, is that if you believe that is what will create a better society in the future, you're dealing with something that's very moral of a better future. Even if it's on bad science.
I'll buy
but
that.
so you are justifying the death of people who are less human, dehumanized people, for
Yeah.
the sake of a higher morality, of a bigger
Ends
picture.
justify the means.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's what's so dangerous is that ideology there's no path to what's actually true, and there's no falsifiable ideas, and so you have to understand that, like, ideology, that's what's so dangerous about it, because there's no reality check, and you have to just that's what's so dangerous about ideology is that if you believe this thing based on indoctrination, based on nothing,
Yeah.
or bad science, then there's nothing stopping you from things like the Holocaust, and you feel as a human being moral and justified in doing this awful thing for a larger sake,
Yeah.
which may or may not be true. So that's what's so scary about things like ISIS and things like
Right.
Nazism is that
Yeah,
is
and that's
that
how
these
it relates
things-
to exactly
these
what I'm
things
talking about here.
justify justify violence
And-
in a way that needs to be
And I don't think it's
corrected.
violence necessarily, but it is definitely injurious to veterans to this type of.
But like
like-
white supremacy and stuff, that's based on stuff like that.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying
is
though
that
is
being a certain race causes a certain
Right,
set
yeah.
of characteristics.
well, that's
not
why
accurate.
I kind of tried to point to
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
well, I mean that's why I kind of tried to point to the
We still didn't get back to the article.
the racial
Back
makeup
to the article.
of the military. It mirrors
Mm-hmm.
almost pretty closely what the population of the United States is.
What?
You know, so it's not like there's like
Oh,
99% white people in the
Right.
military or
Right,
anything like
right,
it's
right.
it's not even close to that. It's like in the 60 percentile range, right? Like 63 or 67, 63 to 67% at any given time if you look at
So
different.
Military is 17% black.
17%,
the regular
19 now,
population
but
is
yeah.
13.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
meaning the percentage of different
And blacks are
races
overrepresented
in there.
Yeah. And other races are overrepresented.
Is paralleled with the population,
Right,
So it's
so-
not, yeah.
So you can't make it. So you can't make the argument. You can't say we're a white supremacist organization because we don't care. We just take people. You know, the military accepts into entrance anybody who's willing to make that sacrifice, sign on that dotted line. If you say, "I want to contribute to the defense of this country," nobody stops you from doing that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so with the inclusion that you're gonna say all these people that are veterans, they're bad and they're divisive and they're threatening people and they're being a disruptive presence, and well, you're basically saying that about the whole country.
Okay,
because we're a
but they-
cross section of the country.
Right, but they don't even give an example of one person doing
Exactly.
that. Like they don't even go that far, let alone having a statistical, like representation of this many
There is
people
no
statistically
there is
does
no data
this thing.
forthcoming for sure.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
that's what's bad about it
Yeah.
too, is that they don't have any justification for making that claim at all. They don't back it up with anything.
right. So because I mean, I go on to object. I mean, what explanation is given for the negative indication of an overwhelming presence?
Right.
I've been
Right.
overwhelmed with love, positive emotions in situations. I've been overwhelmed by many
Like, do people
different
think
things.
they speak loud or
Yeah,
something?
yeah,
Like, I
exactly.
don't-
I'm still waiting to hear why this is a negative. To be over, like, you didn't say overwhelmed with fear, overwhelmed with apprehension.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You just said
overwhelming
overwhelmed, like as an overarching descriptive.
An overwhelming presence, which means
yeah,
that,
like what does that mean? It's
like
nebulous.
the presence of them is overwhelming to other people.
Right. In what way would actually be salient?
Yeah,
to the conversation?
and what justification do they give for that claim?
Sometimes
Like,
we have
Right.
an aggressive personality, but that's not always a negative.
aggressive.
And saying this can be a distraction, it may be an unfair distinction.
Well, my dad was in the military, and he's a very passive.
He's a minority.
You know,
man.
he's not a man's man person. He's a
Look at me
gentle
and TJ.
person.
We're very aggressive personalities. It's not a bad thing, though.
Are you an aggressive personality?
Yes, he is.
I haven't known him very long.
I'm
I've known
apparently
you.
a sociopath.
I understand that about
3 to
about
5.
Jim.
But it's not a negative.
Wait, but it's 3 now?
Sometimes
No.
it is.
Well, there's a place. There's a place for that in the society.
I'm an asshole when I need to be. I'm not turned on all the time.
Turned up.
What? Well, you know what I mean. That switch isn't.
You can take that too.
No, like flipped
Oh,
on
yeah.
like a light switch.
Let's be
You know what I mean?
accurate about
Like,
that.
like my switch isn't flipped to on at all times. But you know, I mean, so okay, all right.
And there can be people who have aggressive personalities outside the military.
Absolutely.
So are you banning all aggressive personalities?
I think. Well, there's like a.
And
bet.
are you ignoring people in the military who don't have that?
Well, but there's a bet. I think. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I could have been in the military, and I would still be me. Like,
You would have been perfect in the Navy.
why?
I'm just saying.
Maybe even the Marine Corps.
Because we're
Why?
the smart branch of the service.
Oh, thank you.
We're the men's department.
We're not-
I know some tough.
Holy
I know
shit,
some
man.
tough female
I'll
Marines.
give you. I'll give you your money.
I
for
was
saying
married
that
to a
later.
Marine. Trust me, I know, man.
I was married to a sailor.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
It's,
Let's
we
keep going.
got off on a little tangent there. All right, so finally, veterans are usually associated with extremist right-wing groups such as the Tea Party and the NRA. Okay, let's repeat that sentence.
Let's break that down. Yeah.
Finally, veterans are usually associated with extremist right-wing groups such as the Tea Party and the NRA. These are extremist right-wing groups. The Tea Party, you can make the case, but the NRA is a business. It's a freaking company, right? A lot of those
like
NRA
a-
people are like libertarians, though. I mean, that's not right. I don't think you could consider that right wing. I mean,
It's very common to be an NRA member in the military.
okay. So, in order to provide a safe space for all students, extremist right-wing groups must be suppressed on campus. This would include their followers, veterans. Okay, so you got any data to back this up? My first question. While I'd agree that groups such as the neo-Nazis and KKK are pretty extreme, are we really lumping the Tea Party and NRA with terrorists and fascists? That was the distinction that I think was most, But
the NRA. It says the NRA does not ask new members if they are current or former military.
yeah, I mean, I agree that extremists.
Statistics are not going to be hard to come by.
I mean,
Are going to be hard.
I agree that extremism and incitement should be excluded from universities. Yeah, I mean, for sure. However, there isn't a shred of evidence that institutionally all or even a vast majority of veterans fall into this category. I mean, there just isn't. There's just no data to back that up.
Yeah.
So the last thing it says is that is not to say that veterans should not be allowed in education. Veterans should be allowed to attend trade schools or maybe even community college.
Oh my god.
Oh my lord!
So that means
Gee
only
whiz, Wally.
that means what that means. Community college means only up to an associate's level degree.
Yeah. We shouldn't be allowed higher education.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But why?
Well, they go on to say
But they mean in general. They don't mean
Yes.
just at their university.
no. They
mean
said
across the board.
all campuses.
Why?
Yes. But in order to protect
Oh,
our
that's
academic
awful.
institutions, we must ban veterans from our 4-year universities.
Okay, who wrote that?
You search me.
You said it was.
There was an email address.
a flyer that was put up at the university. So the university isn't saying that.
No. Okay, and that's actually good that you make that point. So
Did they respond?
They did respond.
I'm sure.
So this is also part of the preparation that I made.
Because holy shit! Like,
yeah.
Administration, please
Yeah.
respond.
So this is who is responding here? Let's just make it clear that this is who's responding.
So this is a random person.
No, Venkat
putting a flyer up at a certain.
Yeah. The flyer was just not even a student.
Unidentified person?
Unidentified person who is not a student.
Or a person who's not a student.
An unidentified person made
the only thing we know about them is that they're not a student.
We do not know who it was. I think the only thing that was ever revealed was that they're not a student.
Okay,
a current student.
Okay, so we do know that they are at least not a current student of the university.
Not a current student.
We don't know anything else about
Don't
them.
know anything else.
Okay.
I mean, there could have been more on the story after that aired. I didn't follow up on it that much, but so this is
What was it called?
Huh? Do what?
I'm gonna Google it.
Oh, I don't. Colorado Springs University newsletter. Shoot.
I'm just gonna. You keep talking.
It's like way back. Like in my feed. But okay. So this is Venkat Reddy, who is the chancellor of the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. Dear campus community, I write this morning in response to a flyer posted yesterday on the UCCS campus by a non-UCCS group.
Okay.
The flyer references veterans studying at institutions of higher education.
Mm-hmm.
The UCCS does not endorse and vigorously rejects the offensive viewpoints expressed in the flyer.
Good.
This flyer stands at the intersection of two core values for UCCS and higher education. On the one hand, we recognize...
So they do that. Okay, yeah.
On the one hand, we recognize the right of people to express their viewpoints, even when those viewpoints are offensive to many in our community. The University of Colorado system adheres to the freedoms embodied in the United States Constitution, which include the freedom of speech contained in the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
In doing so, we draw guidance from the words of the United States Supreme Court, which recently reaffirmed that speech touching on social and political matters is within the bounds of constitutional protection. When speech is a matter of public concern, even though it is racist or sexist, it cannot be restricted simply because it is upsetting or arouses contempt.
What can't be restricted?
Let me repeat the sentence.
Yep.
When speech is a matter of public concern,
Okay, yeah.
even though it is racist or sexist, it cannot be restricted
Absolutely.
simply because it is upsetting or arouses contempt.
Absolutely.
And we must tolerate insulting and even outrageous speech in order to provide adequate breathing space to the freedoms protected by the First Amendment.
That's amazing!
This is the Supreme Court's part of the Supreme Court's opinion. This guy's quoting
That's
the
really
Supreme Court.
good. That is so well said.
I reject the notion that we should censor those who denigrate others
Absolutely.
as censorship as censorship would did I not put this in the right order? Protected by the first as censorship is not protected by the First Amendment. Okay. Mm-hmm. I reject the notion that
censorship is not protected by the First Amendment.
I don't know why he said that. It's in quotes too.
Okay.
But I reject the notion that we should censor those who denigrate others, as censorship would have silenced many voices over the decades who needed to be heard.
Yes.
On the other hand, respect for the right of someone to speak should never be taken as endorsing the viewpoints that someone has expressed.
Absolutely.
The viewpoints that the authors express are against the law. Mm-hmm. UCCS does not discriminate against veterans, but even more fundamentally, UCCS does not discriminate on the basis of race, ethnicity, gender, disability, religion, creed, veteran status, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, political affiliation, or political philosophy.
That's such a smart person who wrote that. Like, dude.
The chancellor of the college.
Like, I would want to apply to that college. That's amazing. That's really well said.
People earn the right to study at UCCS by virtue of hard work and individual effort.
Absolutely.
And we do not bar the door.
Yes. Okay.
Beyond the fact
So exciting.
beyond the fact that the author's position is illegal, it is also wrong.
Okay, how is it illegal?
Well, we could, let me get through the rest
Go
of
ahead.
his statement and we can maybe hash that out.
I'm gonna write that down.
We could flesh that out, maybe. Write that down and then we'll talk about that. It is also wrong. We ascribe to the Board of Regents' guiding principle that the University of Colorado shall always strive to provide an outstanding, respectful, and responsive living, learning, teaching, and working environment. Veterans are positive and valued members of our academic campus community.
Mm-hmm.
They bring experience and viewpoints that enrich our discussions.
Yes.
So do many others.
Diversity of perspective and opinion. Okay, good.
We have learned over time that that higher education thrives when many voices join in the conversation. Just as I disagree with anyone who says that we should refuse a UCCS education to someone who ascribes to a religious faith, I disagree with anyone who says that we should refuse veterans a UCCS education. We recognize.
What about religious faith?
Let me
Sorry,
repeat that
I'm
one.
sorry.
No.
I have
It's because it
ADHD,
was
so I get
a
distracted in
little.
my head.
Well, it was a little. So it says. He says,
Convoluted.
just as I disagree with anyone who says that we should refuse. So just as I disagree with someone who says this, we'll refuse an education to someone who's this religion.
Right. So, like, just as she refuses to refuse someone based on being Muslim.
We're not going to refuse veterans for the same reason.
Absolutely. Okay.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah. We keep moving
sorry.
this mic.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's affecting
Sorry.
the sound.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I disagree with anyone who says that we should refuse veterans a UCCS education, is what he's saying. We recognize the pain caused to many in our community. Consequently, I call upon the UCCS community to recognize the value of free and open discourse while simultaneously standing firm in the inclusive values of our diverse community. If concerns exist about safe expression of ideas, our faculty and staff work diligently and are available to bridge gaps between disparate viewpoints. We know our student veterans to be high-achieving individuals with diverse viewpoints and values, and all of us are enriched by and fortunate to have the military community represented in our classrooms and campuses and spaces. Respectfully, Venkat Reddy, Chancellor. So, yes.
Okay. So I have three things.
Okay.
The idea of banning military vets from universities, I think if you were to enforce that across the board, it would be a...
How could you? Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, if you were to, it would be a... it would de-incentivize... Is that how you say that? De-incentivize? It would be a barrier to being in the military. Like, it would be a drawback to signing up for the military.
You have a towel or something, Jim?
If someone feels compelled to be of service in this way, it would be important to recognize that. Also, the author, the UCLA representative is...
I keep making that bubble, and then it freaking fizzes over.
Oh, it's all good. Sorry.
But also the author of the UCLA representative, or is that UCLA?
The UCCS?
UCCS representative. Sorry. They are making the point that the author should still be allowed to be heard. Because it's a diversity of ideas, and that is especially what college is for, let alone America. You know, diversity of ideas, and because the same argument could be made for anything that people don't like that's being said. So that too, and then we were going to talk about.
I don't know how
is the statement illegal?
I'm not sure. Maybe it
I don't
because
really
of the
understand.
discriminatory nature.
But that's not illegal. I'm not sure that's accurate that they're saying.
No, I'm not sure about that. Well, if you're a place of public accommodation, which a university clearly is.
But that's still not illegal. The university
To
has the
say
right
it
to
isn't,
refuse.
yeah.
The university has the right to admit or not admit anybody.
Well, they can't do it based on certain things, though.
Well, okay.
There are certain things they can't base that decision on.
I think they can. Like they're an
They're a
independent
place of public accommodation.
But they're an individual organization. And so
That
they
doesn't matter.
they usually state that they don't discriminate
Right.
against these things, but they don't.
It's like a
I'm not
restaurant.
sure
Like-
they would need to, because like religious colleges, they make they make you sign a statement that you believe in this thing, and they are a university.
Oh, it's the statement of faith thing. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
but that's not.
So
like,
they discriminate against other
But
faiths
that's-
in that way.
they're basing
but
that
you
off what you
can-
believe, though,
Exactly.
not what you are.
No, but
You know what I'm saying? They
But-
can't
but that's the
deny
same thing.
homosexuals.
they can't.
No,
But they're.
legally they can't. There are
But why?
You can get public money and private money.
Oh, okay. So because they get tax
Well,
funds.
okay. Let me. I have a. Okay, there's a.
I don't know.
I
I
have
don't
an
know that.
analogy here.
Uh-huh.
If you like, say you owned a restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was open to the public. You are then that establishment is then classified for discrimination disagreements as a place of public accommodation. You are allowing the public.
Is that the argument?
Yes, you are allowing the public to enter your establishment. You cannot, at that point, discriminate based on race, religion,
okay.
sex,
Because
and
there's-
there are certain factors that
There's
you
this
cannot
whole
discriminate
argument.
based
There's
on.
this whole argument about like the business's right to refuse business to certain people.
Yes, you can
And so-
refuse
and so there-
service to people, but you cannot base the decision to refuse the service based on certain criteria.
So people could sue you for refusing. Because that's the whole argument about
what if I said-
homosexual
what if I-
things,
What if
right?
in my restaurant I said, "We're open to the public, except if you're black, you can't come in here."
That's the thing. Okay, so I've been curious
That
about
is
this.
illegal.
Yeah, I've been curious about this because there's an argument lately, or there's a debate lately about whether establishments should be legally required to serve gay couples, and so that deals
It's
with a
fraud.
religious thing. And so if you think that being gay is a choice,
So, right,
then that
exactly.
makes it a different issue
But
than
that's
race.
what the
because
religious right is
race
desperately-
is something. Yeah, so race is something that you can't control, and most science
And
would argue that being gay is something that you cannot
being
control.
gay is something you can't control.
And so you
either.
are
I
born
mean,
with that, so it is not. It affects your rights. So there's a debate right now about whether businesses should be forced, like bakeries should be forced to make a wedding cake for gay marriage,
right.
for gay weddings. So you know,
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of limiting the right of the business to refuse business for
Wow.
whatever reason. But the point of that thing is to refuse business to people who are being disruptive or hurting their business. You know, like if you're bullying or whatever, if you're like raging or whatever. But so there's that. But then there's this other civil rights argument that was made during the civil rights movement about you cannot refuse business to someone based on their race. So there's
Only if you're a place of public accommodation.
so that's the distinction. I wanted to
Yes,
find out.
you have to be a bit.
I wanted to find out the distinction
right.
because
Yeah,
because there's an argument that's made about religious freedom of the people running the business versus the freedom of the person to not be limited in their choice of
Right.
establishments to choose from. You know, because so the argument is made that like if a business refuses people based on their sexual orientation, then they won't be open
Yeah.
very long. You know, like that's their right to refuse business, but they are open to the consequences of not accommodating certain people
Right.
and other people who know that refusing to go there because of that distinction.
But I think the
So-
logical argument, though, is that
Yeah.
you're trying to make the distinction that it's based on something that you can't control.
right.
If you're basing it on something the way just people are born,
and that's
like
so
their color,
it's so
their
debated.
sex, their like, yeah.
It's debated in the public sphere, but in the scientific sphere, it is not a debate anymore.
But there's one factor that has nothing to do with whether or not that you're born that way.
Uh-huh.
What's that one?
What factor? What?
What's that one? I'm pretty sure you know it.
What?
Religion. You can't. Yeah.
What?
Ideology.
You can't
Religion.
control what you're
No, what I'm
indoctrinated
saying though
into?
is that that's part of a protected subcategory.
Okay.
Religious affiliation.
Right.
It's the only category that has nothing to do with the way you were born.
Right. Well,
Right?
it has something to do with it.
Only in the sense that by an accident of your birth, you're more likely to be inculcated in the religion of your parents.
And you're more likely to adhere to that religion
right.
because
but
of that
is not
indoctrination.
that is a thing that you could definitely change about
Right.
yourself.
It's
right?
not
You
something
can't change your sex. You can't change your
uncontrollable,
race. You
You can't change your orientation.
You can't change it. No,
And you
can't
shouldn't
change
have
it.
to.
And you shouldn't have to.
Okay.
Religion. Why does religion
mad
on
over
every
here.
front get this special accommodation everywhere it fucking goes?
I feel like this is gonna become a meme.
You know,
like you know.
What is it?
Like,
The Dave Silverman like rage face. You ever seen that meme? Dave, just Google Dave Silverman rage face,
God,
and he's
my
like
God.
he's talking I think Bill Donahue or something like that on O'Reilly or some shit. And it's just like he's like
O'Reilly.
something. It was something. It might have been
It's
just
Bill O'Reilly.
It could have been O'Reilly.
God, okay.
You can't prove the moon's
I had
there.
a-
The tide goes
Tide
in,
goes in, tide goes out. You can't. How do you
prove
explain that? You can't
makes
explain
sense.
that. Yeah.
Unless you're a freaking scientist.
Yeah, unless you know
Controlling the moon.
unless you know how the tidal forces of gravitation work. You
So
know
let's,
what I mean?
so
Like,
let's just assume it's God and not study it and not know anything for the
yeah,
rest
like
of human
really?
history.
Yeah, I think it was like he was like really.
So, for me, the article, the author of the article, it seems like this person is just a random, unknown person. Other than they're either a former student or not a student at all of the university.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, like, why we're even talking about it, because like it's a random person that posted a bunch of flyers on the university, and then the university denounced it.
Yeah.
So,
which is important.
You know, so this person has the right to say what they want to about
sure.
whatever they want to.
Yeah.
But why? Like, what's the outrage about? Like
What
because
caused,
it's
yeah.
not because it's not something the university is enforcing. It's not something the university is saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that a random person spouted, and then the university sort of responded. So, is there a larger issue there, or is it just this person's wrong and we should recognize that? Like,
Right.
is
do they
there
have
anything
some
else?
specific right? Do they have some specific grievance that they're trying to address?
Or an agenda?
With it?
to
They could have
enforce?
just an agenda.
No,
It
but
could be just an agenda.
I mean, as a citizen, I don't like what was said. But is there anything else to be said about that? Like, you know, because obviously there's articles now about it and stuff like that. Like, this person wrote an article and they posted it at the university.
Yeah.
And the university responded, and the students didn't like it, and we move on. Like, is there anything beyond that kind of closed circuit that needs to be addressed?
And really, all this is going to do is going to serve to just show some of the more disturbing viewpoints of some people and what the temperature of the discussion is regarding diversity at college campuses now.
Well,
it's
and confusing the issue of like hate speech versus safe spaces, and like it's such a
It's
pendulum
fraught,
swing
yeah.
of extremes, and just, you know,
I don't.
like you know, like the public can say, hey, be respectful, be a good person, but the government can't tell you to do that.
No, it can't. In other
And
words,
they
yeah, because
shouldn't.
we've already gone over that. They can't.
Right.
It's not compelled. You're not compelled.
So basically, like, what's the takeaway from the whole discussion, though? Like somebody said something and we don't like it, so but they have the right to say it.
Takeaway is to
and
roast
they have,
this.
and they have the right to receive the backlash of it,
Yeah.
and to be corrected.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that we would add to that?
No, just to draw attention to the fact of some of the horrible ideas that are floating around in some people's heads. I mean, like,
To have the discussion, right?
and this is to prove that this is the response. Or
Right.
this is the proper response.
Right.
Not to shut it down or to shout it down, but to talk
to ban
about
it from the university.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The military or the author of the article, neither are rightfully banned from the university. They are a diversity of ideas that need to be discussed and
The
figured
plurality
out.
of yes.
Yeah, and that's what belongs in university is
All the
this-
ideas.
Yeah, and
Not just the ones that are the ones you agree with.
What's her name? Greta Christina talks about a marketplace of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
and religion is one among the marketplace of ideas
Yeah.
that have to compete against each other for our
I see that
adherence.
face, Jim, but man, she's actually defended MRAs before. You know that, right?
No.
Oh, Greta Thunberg.
She's an egalitarian.
I,
She says she identifies as a feminist.
on that note, I respect her, but I know a lot of other things about her too.
Yes. I mean,
All I know about her is that she's spoken on LGBT issues, and then she's spoken on what the atheist community can learn from the LGBT movement to make it a better movement, to make it more effective in destigmatizing the idea of atheism, like we've destigmatized the idea of LGBT. So that idea, I know she's given talks and conferences on that. And the idea of she published a book, 99 Things That Atheists Have Legitimate Reason for Being Angry About.
why are you atheists so angry?
Yes, why are you atheists so angry? She gave a talk about it, she wrote a book about it. She gave 99 reasons, things that atheists have a legitimate reason for being angry about.
Yeah.
And most of them, she notes, are things that happen to believers within the religious context.
And we're objecting to
not-
those things because
yes.
it's happening to their own. They're doing it to their own.
Right, because they
Yeah.
are more immoral things,
Right.
and they shouldn't be happening to these people. And so it's not a child crying out, "Hey, you're oppressing me." In most cases, like there are things that happen to atheists around the world that are awful and deplorable. But the majority of the objections are advocating for the human rights of the people within these organizations.
Right, because we care
within
about
the
them
religious
as well.
beliefs. Exactly.
We don't just
As-
care about our own
Yeah.
tribe. We care
And
about
that's- and
the
that's
tribe as a
humanism.
human race. Yeah.
That's humanism. The inherent value of human life and of bodily autonomy and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
These things are verifiable, I think.
You can, yeah.
You can definitively that idea. Yeah, that's a whole nother
that's the
thing.
crux. But that's the you're talking about the crux of humanism is that there are
Yeah.
things that we can know that we can discern about reality,
Right.
in regards to human flourishing.
Yeah, if we can agree that human flourishing is a good thing,
Right.
then there are things that we can definitively say that will either promote or be a detriment to human flourishing. And so if science can say anything about not only how things happen, but what ought to happen, you have to start.
Well,
you
science
have to,
is descriptive, not prescriptive, though.
exactly, but
I mean-
that's the idea is that if it's yes, but science can say something.
It can lead us to a conclusion,
Yeah.
wherein, then we can then
Yeah.
follow on to that.
Science can say something about what will
Right.
promote
It only describes
or
a
not
thing to us.
human flourishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I don't think it would be a prescription like, a
No, yeah, for
doctrine
sure.
or something like
There's
that.
no dogma in science.
But
I mean,
it's saying, hey, this is the research, do with it what you will. Like that's the role
like
of
we've
science.
determined that this is the thing that actually comports
Yeah.
to reality.
And
so what
again,
you do with
it's-
that then is humanism.
Yeah, and science is about experts in science, people who know a whole lot about a specific issue versus
Right.
authorities in it. And a student of a science can disprove something that their professor says if their evidence is valid. And so the evidence is what rules the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, you
And
can
so,
appeal
and so
to an
in that
authority.
way, in that way,
In
there
certain
aren't
cases.
any authorities.
Right, but
science.
if
There are experts in science.
well, yeah, that's
who
true.
Can,
So
who
they
can
can
be proven wrong.
Right, that is true. But you can also appeal to that as an authority on that specific subject.
Right.
When it can be expected to
Because
be
they're
authority.
an expert in it, but
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
but not because within the
No,
field
not
of
because of
science
a,
they are an
say-so.
authority.
Not on
Yeah,
say-so, yeah.
Not because the scientific community says, "Hey, we respect you and we trust you because you said
No,
it."
it's
That's
a recognition of that person's training within that
true.
field.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and the strength of their argument and evidence. So
Yes.
yeah, so they gain authority in the community because of the strength of their argument that is verified,
Right.
and evidence to support that.
Right.
And that's what becomes an authority, not this, hey, I'm an important person, this is true because I say it is. No, that's more religious. And that does not belong in scientific discourse. Yeah,
Viewpoints.
I had
But
a
to be able to-
Facebook rant recently about a Fox News interview. Hannity, I think,
Oh, God.
The guy who replaced O'Reilly.
Was it Hannity that got his spot?
Bow tie guy.
He had
No, Tucker Carlson.
Tucker. Yeah, it was Tucker.
Tucker
Sorry.
Carlson, man,
It
that
was
guy's
Tucker.
fucking insufferable.
He had an interview with somebody. I don't even remember what it was, but it was an interview with somebody about something.
I thought he did a good job on that.
The entire interview was him sort of terrorizing the person and not letting them get to their point and straw manning the argument and talking over them until the time ran out for the interview.
He engaged in a little bit of chicanery.
That was it. Oh, did you see that I posted?
Yeah, it was that ridiculous looking professor
and I got
Antifa
so mad. It was
proponent.
okay. Yeah, it was
Like,
a person. It was a person representing the DNC
he
for the
was
rights
ridiculous.
of transgender people with the bathroom thing.
It devolved into identity
It was
politics
really
after that,
annoying
like-
because like the true journalism is,
that's not journalistic
is
integrity
getting
for
to
there,
what this
for sure.
person really thinks
Yeah.
to bring that to the public. And this interview was, I'm going to antagonize you and talk over
Well,
you
that's his
and
MO.
not let you talk and straw man you to where you can't speak in opposition to that straw man and correct it and not actually understand what you're saying.
You know the
To
type
where
of people that he's
I
talking
just
to, though.
just completely misrepresent your ideas and badger you and talk over you until the time for the interview is done, and then I'm gonna stop it. Like that's what I see overwhelmingly on Fox News.
Well, let's
And
be
it's
honest though
infuriating.
too. Antifa is fraught with its own
Yeah, absolutely.
a freaking just bevy of problems and
Yeah.
It's just not. I mean, I don't think
it's
violence on either side of any issue is
it's-
ever the answer.
It's fascism.
It's fascism on the
it's
left.
Fascism parading as anti-fascism.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
it is.
fascism. Oh my! Wow,
Thank you.
man!
Oh,
I
God.
love that. That was like
That's a round of applause.
that is wow.
I mean, isn't it?
That
Like
is-
that's true.
That is accurate.
It's
That's a
it's
good
hey,
one,
I don't like your idea, so I'm gonna beat it out of you.
Yeah.
That's fascism.
yeah, we're gonna wear masks and bring bats to your
So, but
protests so that we can-
it doesn't represent the Democratic Party. Like it doesn't
no,
represent.
I consider myself
liberalism.
a classic liberal.
Yeah, it doesn't
'Cause
represent that side. It's an extreme example of people who are very misled and who have a very terrible way of civil discourse.
And they say
Like,
the only
it's
way
not
to
that.
fight it is to be violent against
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's like the idea of setting off bombs because women in feminism setting off bombs because violence is the only language men understand. Like that's stupid.
Dude.
I mean, you're blowing up women and men. Though,
Well,
when
that
you do
yeah,
stuff
but
like
that
though. I mean,
happened in the 1800s in England, of the women's suffrage
I
movement.
didn't even know that.
The movie called Suffrage. They do talk about that, and I'm not a fan. I love that movie, but I'm not a fan of the appeal to violence for that point.
Yes, I.
And so there's a point, even in the trailer, I think, where she talks about, we break things, we blow up buildings because violence is the only language that men understand, and it is a very terrible characterization of who men are and what they represent. And so, however, in that time period, in the 1800s, it was a much more obvious patriarchy, and it was a violently enforced patriarchy, and this story was based on real people. So there is that to consider. But the movie Suffrage, it's got Carey Mulligan, amazing, and Meryl Streep as well. She plays a smaller role, but she's brilliant in anything. So that's that. I'm a movie buff, if nobody knows that, or I'm just a
You
fan.
got my Back to the Future reference earlier, so that's.
Well, yeah. Well, I grew up with
kudos
Back
for
to the
that,
Future.
yeah.
I mean, my dad was born in 1946, and so my like, it's funny, like music and stuff, like the 80s music, I never understood that. Like I never got it because my parents, I grew up with like 40s, 50s music, and then 90s from my childhood, what I found on the radio. So like 60s, 70s, 80s music, I didn't really get that, like that whole classic rock thing. I'm sorry, I don't get it. Like I don't like it.
Well.
But I like, jazz and
Well, there's some stuff like some early
And
his
like
name?
so jazz and like Frank Sinatra and that's what I grew up with. I grew up with like Diana Krall and Nora Jones and Jack Johnson and blah blah.
Nora Jones.
Nora Jones is local. She went to TCC.
Shit.
She went where I went. She went to TCC Northeast, their music program. So she went where I went. That was cool. That if you are given the choice and if you clearly understand it, then you wouldn't pick the other side. And so I didn't think anybody went to hell. But my point of that is that my belief was based on just thinking in my room. Like that was it. Like there's no path to actually what's true. And that was the thing, was that once
How do you determine whether or not what you believe is true?
Yeah. So and again, I thought of it. It was revealed to me.
Right.
And so it must be true because God gave that revelation to me and I should share it with everybody. Like that was the idea. And so it's just so creepy.
You couldn't know, in other words.
Exactly. But I thought that I could. I thought that was the path to truth, was that if it comes at you, it comes at you for a reason.
Right.
And that is I don't think people really realize that's something that really does happen within this religious context.
Yeah, for sure.
And so what that does is it gives a lot of people within one church, they all have their own individual idea of who God is and what the rules are and what they think, is real, but none of them are critically looking at that and critically saying what's actually true. And
you do have some people that do.
Yeah.
I'm a prime example. I didn't my IQ didn't increase suddenly when I became an atheist.
Yeah, I've heard that.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't just become smarter.
Well, and that's the
I just
thing.
started looking critically.
Yeah. Well, and
I
I
was
think,
like, it doesn't make any sense.
I think my values changed. I stopped believing because it was what was comfortable, and I really loved my faith, because it was what was taught to me. But I started to value more what was actually true.
You started to care about whether or not the things you believed were true.
Exactly.
Yes,
and I think
that's
I think that's exactly the difference between being skeptical about anything,
right? Yeah.
and just accepting things the way that they are, because people talk about oh well you want to live your life selfishly and you don't want to do this. I'm like,
y'all
no.
just want to sin.
Yeah.
Y'all just want to sin.
But I just want to be authentic and intellectually honest and accurate. That is it.
Honesty is important, and a lot of people don't.
And intellectually honest,
and being intellectually honest, but people don't get that though. They don't They don't put the importance on it that they don't realize that there needs to be an emphasis placed on it.
Because there's a difference between being genuine. Mm-hmm. And being intellectually honest with other people and with yourself, because there's a point where people are like, oh well, I know this and this is something I know, and it's like, no, you just thought it, and but that's the problem, is that they really do believe that that's real and they know it because they thought they were supposed to. And so when I went to India, you had this vast hitting me in the face with extreme poverty and extreme homelessness and little kids wearing no pants and just running around. It was so sad. And as a Christian,
you were a Christian at the time when you went.
I did, yeah.
Oh wow. What kind of cognitive dissonance did that cause?
So that was the thing, is that was part of it. I was like I don't understand why this is okay.
Yeah, why should this be allowed to be a condition of humanity? Yeah.
If God is powerful enough to allow this to happen or not, why
we
is
caused
this
it all.
happening?
It's all because of us. It's our fault.
Yeah,
we got us to where we're at.
It's free will's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sin. Yeah.
And the whole notion of libertarian free will.
But
is
again,
retarded anyway. But
what? It's mental gymnastics. But,
it is. Yeah.
But so I think that being confronted with, there was this woman in Calcutta that she was homeless, and she was on the street, and she was doing this, which is it's
Just getting some food, or
but they don't accept food, they only accept money. They really do.
That's crazy,
at least
man.
where I was, and especially children.
Wow.
Because they have often they have
Well, that's
a
the
group
way to your heart. I mean,
No, that
the
they
kids.
often they have somebody that they're giving the money to, and they go right back onto the street. So we
Oh,
only
yeah. Okay. I
So
know what
we
you're
so
talking
we
about,
only we only gave food to them.
like Slumdog Millionaire style
Exactly,
kind
and
of
that's
situation.
and
Yeah,
that's freaking real.
that
like,
is
that happens.
scary, man.
It is, and like injuring children so that they'll get more sympathy.
Yeah,
Really messed
Like,
up.
Didn't he blind his friend? Like he he made his friend blind. They made his friend blind.
Oh yeah.
The one that he was
And
when he was a little kid. Yeah,
they'll give another one, make another one need crutches for the rest of their life.
right. Break their limbs and give them scars and all kinds of crazy shit, man. Like
Yeah, it's scary. Let alone like selling young girls into sex slavery and all that. Like,
yeah.
just it's all awful. What was I talking about? Yeah. Oh, okay. So the woman on the street.
Yeah.
There was this woman that I remember. We had a big group, and everybody was just sort of like passing by.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of have to, because there's so many people on the street, and there's so many people just everywhere, and you just can't stop everywhere.
There's like a billion Indians.
It's overwhelming. Walking down the street and having light skin.
They know you're a target.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
They'll charge you three times the
mark.
price.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
They'll charge you 3 times.
Because they know that you can afford to do
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, they know that you don't know. And so, but this woman, I was kind of like on the tail end of the group, and she grabbed my arm, and she sort of like looked in my eyes, and it was like this recognition of, a human being.
Okay.
And then she wouldn't let go of my arm. And I think eventually like somebody else kind of came up and like separated us, but it was just, that stayed with me for a long time, because these are human beings. And if you have this idea, this higher power idea that like, oh, well, that's just where God has them. That's part of a plan.
Well,
it's like,
in a sense, yeah, it's where a lot of religion has probably kept them.
It made me get so angry at that idea, because it's like there's nothing separating this person from me, It's just an accident of birth that I'm here and she's there, and this is the situation she's in.
Way to put it,
and there's only and that was the biggest thing, that like there's nothing separating that, and
right,
and it's so sad. So at the time, I felt better about it because it was part of a plan. But as I got away from my religious ideas and started to really see kind of what I actually think about this stuff and what's actually valid, it really, I kept coming back to that, and that was a major thing for me, that like, these are human beings who live and die in the same place, in the same situation.
And this is something that, like, it's interesting that you say that, because it makes me think of something that Sam Harris actually has spoken about when he talks about, like, it's the ultimate arrogance for the religious person to attribute all, the good things that happen to them in their life to their deity, when
prosperity gospel.
When there is so much that he does not accomplish in the lives of others,
let alone the universe being made for us.
Exactly. Yeah,
I think somebody said that like it's humility, or it's arrogance masquerading as humility.
Yeah,
really
exactly. Yes,
like it's so
it is
good.
Supremely, like, he's helping you find your car keys,
because they think that that's humble. They're like, I gave my life to God, and if none of it's me, it's all God.
Right.
But it's all designed for me anyway.
Exactly. Yeah,
like,
I'm humble, but look at how special I am.
Aren't you arrogant because you come up to me and say you don't know? Like, it's not freaking arrogant.
Yeah.
It's just intellectually honest. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Is that like they?
How do you know what you know? It's
exactly like you
like, how do you get there? Like, what's the mechanism? Like, how do you get from
what's the
believing
path
a thing
to actual truth?
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, okay, so anything else to add about the article?
No, I think we've talked about a lot of different stuff.
So
I am. Go ahead and say it.
Just do it.
What do we? How do we do that?
She's running for president of Metroplex Atheist.
I'm running for president for Metroplex Atheist, which is a Arlington DFW based
Largest.
atheist group. It's the oldest atheist group in DFW, and it is said, I'm not sure how statistically accurate that is, but it is said that it's the most activist group among the DFW groups, because there's different groups have different aims, and they're absolutely valid in whatever they focus on. Dallas Fellowship of Free Thought, they're a little bit more about community and family, and they have like a children's program, and they have like luncheons and things like that. And they do community outreach as well. And so Metroplex Atheist, it's a smaller group than that, but it also does community outreach. It does
Separation of church and state issues.
Yeah, they have an entire branch of it that we have an entire branch of it that deals with separation of church and state. And so we have incoming claims that are brought to us to either defer them to Foundation Beyond Belief or other amazing organizations, or for us to deal with it directly ourselves if we have the resources for it. Yeah. So I'm in the running for that. And I guess next video, by the time we do a next video, we'll know whether I'm
Might be
I'm a
looking at the
representative.
next, president of MA.
But I'm not sure we would want to connect anything that's talked about in these discussions and on this page with that organization. But we are complex individuals with our own civil discourse, and we multifaceted, and so we represent them, but we also represent this. So.
Yep. And we'll provide all the links to the discussion in the description of this podcast. And most of the groups that I've gotten involved with or found out events for and everything were from Meetup. So that's how I connected to my group and other groups that I'm involved in. So that's always a really good resource for anybody who wants to find a local group. It's always good to go online and get attached to that community, because there's a lot of people who they leave religious institutions who have a community built in, and they need something that fulfills that need, because it is a need, and so whatever you are needing from a community, there's usually an organization that fills that hole. So it's I'm a nobody, so I don't have anything to plug. I am Depraved Atheist, so I do have a channel. I have a few videos.
I didn't know that.
I have a couple of videos. It's actually
I know what I'm doing.
published. Yeah, I know, right? Well, I published some stuff that my buddy Jason did live. He did some live broadcasts on Facebook. We published those to the channel. We were just kind of waiting to see if we could get some feedback from the viewing audience to see if we needed something that we should continue to do. So if you want to go check those out, maybe we'll start churning out some more content. I know we have more videos that we could actually post. So if that's something that people want, we'll definitely do that. So that's the only thing I have.
I also might give a shout out to my personal friend Thomas Westbrook, who has his channel. What was it called? Holy Kool-Aid. There you go. I had a blank, but yeah. Great channel. Also, Cosmic Skeptic. I'm not a friend of theirs, but they are very, very brilliant and very well thought out. So, yay.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Get this special accommodation everywhere it fucking goes.
I feel like this is going to become a meme.
Is ever the answer.
It's fascism.
It's fascism on the left.
It's fascism parading as anti-fascism.
Yeah, it's fascism parading. Oh my. Wow, man.
Thank you. Oh, God.
I love that. That was like.
That's a round of applause.
That is, wow.
You want to live your life selfishly and you don't want to do this. I'm like,
y'all
no.
just want to sin.
Yeah.
Y'all just want to sin.
But
an unholy thing. An unholy thing. Unfiltered.